Saturday evening, October 4, 1952. The time was 8:47 p.m. The location was the rooftop of the building at 22,897th Avenue, at the corner of West 134th Street in Harlem, New York. The temperature was 61 degrees Fahrenheit. The sky was clear, with a nearly full moon overhead. 4 stories separated the rooftop from the street level, 48 feet from the roof's edge to the concrete sidewalk below. Bumpy Johnson stood at the center of the roof, surrounded by 13 men forming a semicircle around him. Every one of them was white. Everyone was armed. They carried baseball bats, crowbars, and tire irons, weapons meant for close-quarters combat, not firearms. Guns would have made it too quick, too easy, too merciful. What they planned was about delivering a message through pain and humiliation. This gang called themselves the West Side Boys. They operated out of Hell's Kitchen, a mix of Irish and Italian men led by Patrick "Red" Malone, age 34, 6 feet tall, weighing 195 pounds. His red hair explained the nickname, and his violent reputation preceded him. The West Side Boys controlled several city blocks in Hell's Kitchen. They ran protection rackets, loan sharking operations, and gambling houses. Territorial disputes with rival gangs were common, but Harlem was not their territory. Harlem belonged to Bumpy Johnson. Everyone knew it, including the West Side Boys, yet they came anyway. The confrontation began 3 weeks earlier. On September 13, 1952, a numbers runner named Tommy Dequa worked under Bumpy in the border territory between Hell's Kitchen and Harlem. From West 57th to West 60th Street, a mixed neighborhood, both organizations claimed. Tommy collected the numbers, paid Bumpy his percentage, and operated peacefully for 6 months. Then the West Side Boys decided they wanted exclusive control of that territory. Red Malone sent 2 men to Tommy with a message: stop working for Bumpy and start working for them, or stop working permanently. Tommy reported this directly to Bumpy. It was a standard territorial dispute. Nothing unusual. Bumpy sent Marcus Webb with his response. The borderland was open territory. Tommy worked for Bumpy. The West Side Boys were welcome to run their own numbers runners, but they had no right to force Bumpy's people out. It was a fair arrangement, neutral and professional. Red Malone rejected the offer outright. Instead, he sent his own response. On September 17th, Tommy Dequa was found in an alley, severely beaten. Both arms were broken, and his face was unrecognizable. The message had been delivered and received. Bumpy's response was measured and calculated. On September 19th, he dispatched 3 of his men to Hell's Kitchen. They found 2 West Side Boys collecting protection money from a bar on 10th Avenue. Those 2 men ended up hospitalized with injuries similar to Tommy's broken arms and damaged faces. It was an equal, proportional response. Professional. The conflict should have ended there. Mutual damage dealt. Mutual respect established. Move forward. But Red Malone saw it differently. He saw escalation, disrespect, a black man daring to strike white men on their own turf. Red decided to end the conflict permanently, not through negotiation or understanding, but through elimination. Remove Bumpy Johnson from the equation. Without leadership, Harlem would fragment, easier to take over piece by piece with no one at the top. The plan was simple: lure Bumpy to a meeting on neutral ground, discuss peace terms, then ambush him, kill him, dump the body somewhere, and claim ignorance. Let Harlem dissolve into chaos without its leader. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday, October 4th, at 8:30 p.m. The location was 22,897th Avenue, a 4-story building. The ground floor held a vacant storefront. The second and third floors contained residential apartments. The 4th floor was storage space. With rooftop access via the fire escape, the building's owner owed Red Malone a significant sum of money, a substantial debt. He provided the keys, the access, the location for murder. Bumpy arrived at 8:35 p.m., 5 minutes late, by design. Never arrive exactly when expected. Maintain control over timing. He came alone, just as requested. A neutral meeting implied minimal security. Professional courtesy dictated it. He climbed the fire escape, his standard practice. The front entrance would have been too visible, too exposed. The fire escape offered discretion. He reached the rooftop at 8:42 p.m. Red Malone stood waiting with 12 other men, 13 in total, all armed. Bumpy understood immediately. This was no meeting. This was an execution. Bumpy Johnson, glad you could make it. We have some things to discuss about Tommy Dequa, about my men in Hell's Kitchen, about respect. Red's tone was casual, conversational, the tone of someone in complete control, someone about to win. Bumpy assessed the situation quickly. 13 armed men surrounding him. A rooftop for stories above street level. 1 fire escape blocked by several men. No other means of escape. Fighting wasn't viable. 13 against 1. Even someone like Bumpy couldn't overcome those odds. Talking might buy time, but time for what? No one knew his location. Marcus Webb knew about the meeting. Yes, but Bumpy was supposed to call afterward. If he didn't, Marcus would assume the meeting was running long. Hours might pass before anyone realized something had gone wrong. Respect. That's an interesting word coming from someone who ambushes instead of negotiates. Bumpy's voice remained completely calm. Fear accomplished nothing. If death was approaching, it was better to meet it with dignity and tact. Negotiation is for equals. You're not my equal. You're a Negro, running numbers in Harlem. I'm expanding my territory, your territory. Actually, simple economics. You're in the way, so I'm removing the obstacle. Red pulled a pistol from inside his jacket, not to shoot. Not yet, but for intimidation, for emphasis. The other 12 men moved closer, tightening the circle. Bumpy noticed the details. 3 men to his left carried bats. 2 on his right held. All were positioned strategically to prevent any escape attempt. It was a professional setup. Red Malone had done this kind of thing before, perhaps not to someone of Bumpy's caliber, but he had carried out ambushes and knew how to corner his prey and eliminate threats. Asterisk, here's what happens next. Bumpy, my boys are going to demonstrate what happens when you disrespect the West Side boys. They'll break some bones, damage that face of yours, make you an example. Then we're going to throw you off this roof. 4 stories, 48 feet to the concrete below. You might survive the fall. Probably won't. Either way, you're finished. Can't run Harlem from a hospital bed. Can't run anything with a broken spine. Red was enjoying the moment, the explanation, the anticipation, the power. Bumpy calculated his options. Fighting would result in a beating followed by being thrown from the roof. Not fighting would lead to the same outcome. Only the timeline would differ. The beating might last 10 minutes, maybe 15, pain before death or crippling injury. Was there any value in prolonging what seemed inevitable? No. Better to force their hand, speed up the process, reduce the suffering. Make them act now, instead of torturing him first. Asterisk, so do it. You've got 13 men and all this planning. Either beat me first or throw me now. Stop talking about it. Asterisk. Bumpy moved toward the roof's edge, not away from the gang, but toward the ledge, taking control of the sequence and forcing them to decide. Asterisk. Red Malone was surprised. He had expected begging, attempts at negotiation, fear. Instead, he got defiance. Bumpy was choosing how this would happen. Not completely, but enough to disrupt Red's script. Enough to make Red react instead of control. Asterisk. Fine. You want it quick, you get it quick. Boys, throw him off now. Asterisk. Red nodded toward the men nearest to Bumpy. 4 men moved at once, grabbing his arms, jacket and belt. Physical control was established as they dragged him to the roof's edge. The ledge was 18 inches high, solid brick. Below lay 7th Avenue and the sidewalk. A few pedestrians were visible Saturday evening, people heading to restaurants and clubs. A normal Harlem night, about to be disrupted. Asterisk. Bumpy didn't resist. Resistance was futile for men holding him, 9 others watching. Struggling would only trigger the beating first and the throw afterward. Better to go over conscious than unconscious. Better to control the fall, if possible, to maximize whatever chance of survival existed. 48 feet was survivable, not likely, but possible if you landed correctly, if you got lucky. If God was paying attention. Asterisk. They lifted him, swung him back for momentum, then hurled him off the building. Asterisk. Saturday, October 4th, 1952, 8:47 p.m. Bumpy Johnson left the rooftop of 22,897th Avenue at approximately 15 miles per hour of horizontal velocity. Then gravity took over, accelerating at 32 feet per second squared. The fall lasted about 1.7 seconds. Speed at impact was roughly 35 miles per hour, a force comparable to a car crash. Survivability was minimal but not zero. Asterisk. Bumpy had 1.7 seconds of awareness during the fall. His training took over immediately. Every professional criminal learned how to fall, minimize injury, protect the head and spine, tuck the body, roll if possible, distribute the impact. He couldn't control his trajectory, but he could control his body position. He pulled his arms in, turned slightly, angled for his legs to hit first not the head, not the spine. Legs could break and be repaired. Head or spine injuries were permanent. Asterisk. He struck the sidewalk at 8:47 and 2 seconds p.m. 2 seconds after leaving the roof. Left leg first, then left hip, then left shoulder, then he rolled, spreading the impact across multiple points instead of one catastrophic blow. Physics worked mostly in his favor. The left femur fractured, a clean break. The hip dislocated, painful but repairable. The shoulder separated, also repairable. His head remained protected. No skull fracture, no brain trauma. The spine stayed intact, no paralysis, no severing. Pain was immediate, overwhelming, total, but Bumpy remained conscious. Alive, functional, unlikely, but true. Pedestrians screamed. Some ran toward him, others ran away. Confusion spread everywhere. A man had just fallen or jumped or been thrown from a building, unclear which, but undeniably catastrophic. Someone ran to a nearby payphone and called the police, called an ambulance, the standard response to such an emergency. Man down, need help. 911. On the rooftop above, Red Malone and his gang looked over the edge and saw Bumpy lying on the sidewalk below, barely moving. Probably dead, maybe dying. Mission accomplished, they thought. They hurried down the fire escape into waiting cars and drove back to Hell's Kitchen to celebrate. Bumpy Johnson eliminated. Harlem now available. Expand the territory. Increase profits. On the sidewalk, Bumpy assessed his injuries. Left leg broken, he couldn't walk. Left hip dislocated, he couldn't stand. Left shoulder separated, he couldn't push himself up. But his right side was mostly functional. His right arm worked. His right leg worked. He could drag himself slowly, painfully, but it was possible. He looked around. Pedestrians stood back, scared and uncertain. A black man had fallen from a building in Harlem in 1952. Police would be coming. An ambulance would be coming. Questions would be asked. Bumpy couldn't be there when they arrived. Being found injured meant a hospital. A hospital meant police reports. Police reports meant vulnerability. His enemies would know he was incapacitated. Know where he was. Finished what Red Malone had started. Help me, Bumpy said weakly. Pain made speaking difficult, but he needed to move. He needed to disappear before the authorities arrived. A woman in her mid-40s approached. She lived in the neighborhood and recognized him immediately. Everyone in Harlem knew Bumpy Johnson. Mr. Johnson, what happened? You need an ambulance. You need a hospital. No hospital. No police. Help me to that alley. Please. I'll explain later. Just help me move now. Bumpy was already dragging himself forward, using his right arm to pull his body inches at a time toward the alley between the buildings, dark, hidden away from the street. The woman helped, gripping under his right arm and supporting some of his weight. Together, they got him into the alley. 10 feet separated the sidewalk from darkness. Just 10 feet. The movement took 2 minutes, excruciating, but necessary. Hidden now, temporarily safe. Police sirens sounded in the distance, growing louder and closer. Someone had called it in. Response time was maybe 4 minutes, normal for Harlem at that time. The police would find nothing, no victim. Just bystanders saying a man fell and then vanished. Unsolvable. Forget it. Bumpy gave the woman a phone. Number Marcus Webb's. Call this. Tell him I'm in the alley behind 22,897th. Tell him, Red Malone. Tell him, bring everyone. Tell him, bring everything. Tell him 2 hours. Can you do that? The woman nodded, ran to a payphone, made the call, and delivered the message exactly as instructed. Marcus Webb answered, heard the message, and understood immediately. Bumpy was hurt. Red Malone was responsible. Everyone meant every soldier Bumpy had available. Everything meant every weapon they could gather. 2 hours to find the timeline. Prepare, organize, execute. Marcus hung up and started making calls immediately. In the alley, Bumpy waited. Police arrived at the scene, examined the sidewalk, spoke with witnesses, and received vague descriptions. A man fell. The man disappeared. No one saw anything clearly. Height, weight, age, race, all inconsistent, useless. The police took notes, filed a report, and left. Harlem had bigger problems than a maybe. Move on to the next call. Bumpy focused on staying conscious. The pain tested that focus severely. His left leg throbbed without pause. His hips sent sharp signals through his body. His shoulder burned intensely, but remaining conscious was mandatory. Passing out meant vulnerability, meant being found, meant losing control. He controlled his breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Slow, measured, pain management through focus. Mind over body, not eliminating the pain, but channeling it, using it, staying sharp and aware. At 9:15 p.m., Marcus Webb arrived at the alley with 3 men and a car. He pulled in, found Bumpy, and made a quick assessment. You need a doctor. No doctors. No hospitals. Not yet. First, we handle Red Malone. Then medical attention. How many men can you gather in 1 hour? Bumpy's voice was stronger now. Anger fueled him. Rage medicated him better than morphine ever could. The physical pain was real, absolutely real, but secondary now. The primary focus had shifted to retribution. Red Malone thought throwing Bumpy off a building would eliminate the problem. Open Harlem, enable expansion. Wrong. Completely wrong. Throwing Bumpy off that building had just declared war, started something that would end with Red Malone and his entire gang erased. Not beaten, not damaged, erased. 30 men, maybe depends who's available on a Saturday night. Some are working, some are out, but I can get 30 for certain. 35 if we wait 90 minutes instead of 60. Marcus was already calculating. 30 men represented significant force, enough for an assault, enough for a war. Get 30. Use the 90 minutes. I need that time anyway. Bumpy explained what had happened. The rooftop, the 13 men, Red Malone, the throw, the landing, the survival, and the message that now needed to be sent. Red thinks I'm dead or hospitalized or broken. He thinks Harlem is vulnerable now. He's wrong. We're going to Hell's Kitchen, to every location the West Side Boys operate from. Every bar, every gambling den, every protection client, every place they collect money or conduct business. And we're going to shoot everything. Everyone affiliated with Red Malone dies tonight. No survivors, no witnesses, no continuation. The West Side Boys end tonight completely. Marcus understood this went beyond standard retaliation. This was annihilation. Total, complete. That's going to bring police attention. Major response. Shooting up Hell's Kitchen, multiple locations. That's headlines. That's federal attention. That's sending a message that you don't throw Bumpy Johnson off a building. You don't try to kill me. You don't invade Harlem. You don't survive the attempt. I don't care about police. I don't care about attention. I care about every person in New York knowing what happens when you come after me. Red Malone gambled. He lost. He dies. His gang dies. His legacy dies tonight. Completely, absolutely. Bumpy's tone left no room for debate. This was happening. Marcus could participate or step aside, but it would happen regardless. Understood. 90 minutes. 35 men. Full arsenal. I'll get Freddy to splint your leg. Basic field medicine, enough to stabilize you until after. Then real medical attention. Agreed. Marcus was already planning logistics, weapons, targets, routes, coordination. This would be the largest operation the Harlem organization had conducted in years, possibly ever. Multiple simultaneous attacks across multiple locations, coordinated, overwhelming, unprecedented. Bumpy nodded his approval. Freddy was a former Army medic who had served in World War II. Now, ran a small clinic in Harlem. It wasn't officially licensed, but he was competent. He treated gunshot wounds, stabbings, broken bones, medical cases that couldn't go through hospitals. Freddy arrived 20 minutes later. He examined Bumpy in the alley, splinted the left leg, immobilized it properly, and forced the hip back into its socket. The pain was excruciating. Bumpy didn't scream. He clenched his jaw, absorbed the pain, and converted it into fuel. The shoulder was strapped and immobilized. Pain medication was offered. Bumpy refused. He needed clarity, needed sharpness, needed the rage. Pain fed the rage. By 10:15 p.m., the organization had assembled 37 men, more than expected. Word had spread through the network. Bumpy had been thrown off a building by a white gang from Hell's Kitchen. Everyone wanted revenge, not just for Bumpy, but for the principle, for the message, for Harlem itself. The arsenal was extensive. 23 pistols, 8 revolvers, 12 shotguns, 7 Thompson submachine guns, and ammunition in quantities suggesting prolonged engagement. This wasn't a simple hit. This was an invasion. This was war. Bumpy divided the force into 5 teams. 7 men per team, with 2 teams held in reserve for oversight and backup. Each team received a target. Target 1, Sullivan's Tavern, 10th Avenue and West 47th Street, the West Side Boys headquarters, where they met, planned operations, and where Red Malone held court. Target 2, Dempsey's Gym, 9th Avenue and West 44th Street, where they trained recruits, recruited members, and stored weapons. Target 3, the Lucky 7 Gambling Den, 11th Avenue and West 52nd Street, a major revenue source, where money was laundered and profits counted. Target 4, Murphy's Garage, 10th Avenue and West 41st Street, where vehicles were stored, cars maintained, stolen property kept. Target 5, O'Malley's Bar, 9th Avenue and West 50th Street, a secondary meeting location where Red's lieutenants gathered and orders were distributed. 5 teams, 5 targets, simultaneous attacks scheduled for 10:45 p.m. precisely, 30 minutes to drive from Harlem to Hell's Kitchen. Position the teams, confirm targets, coordinate timing, attack together, overwhelm response capacity, create chaos, eliminate targets, extract, return to Harlem. Total operation time estimated at 90 minutes, including travel. Bumpy couldn't walk and couldn't participate directly, but he could command. Marcus drove him to a car parked at 10th Avenue and West 46th Street, a central location with visibility of 3 targets. Radio communication was established with team leaders. Bumpy would coordinate from the car, direct strategy, adjust tactics, oversee execution, and lead despite his injuries. Leadership wasn't about physical presence. It was about will, determination, and proving that attempts to eliminate you only make you more dangerous. At 10:44 p.m., all teams were in position. Sullivan's Tavern had 12 visible occupants, West Side Boys members. Red Malone was visible through the window. Dempsey's Gym had 8 people, a training session in progress. The Lucky 7 had approximately 15 people gambling. Murphy's Garage had 4 mechanics working on cars. Bar had around 10 people drinking and socializing. Approximately 49 visible targets across all 5 locations, all affiliated with the West Side Boys. All complicit, all marked. The clock read 10 hours 44 minutes and 47 seconds. 13 seconds until execution. 13 seconds until the largest coordinated attack Harlem had ever carried out. 13 seconds until Red Malone and the West Side Boys learned that throwing Bumpy Johnson off a building hadn't eliminated the threat, it had multiplied it. At 10:45 p.m. exactly, the shooting began. 5 locations, 35 men, overwhelming firepower. The coordination was precise. Team leaders synchronized their watches. Radio silence was maintained until execution. The signal was simple. 10:45 meant go. Asterisk Sullivan's Tavern, 10th Avenue and West 47th Street. Team 17 men, led by Raymond Lewis, 32 years old. Former Army infantry, Korea veteran, combative, tactically sharp. Asterisk, the tavern's front entrance was wood and glass. A single door, no visible security. Inside were 12 West Side boys. Red Malone sat at a table in the back, drinking whiskey, celebrating. Bumpy Johnson was dead. He believed Harlem was open. Life was good for 43 more seconds. Asterisk Raymond positioned his team, 3 at the door, 2 covering side windows, 2 covering the rear exit. Standard assault pattern. Overwhelming force. Prevent escape. Asterisk at 10:45 sharp. Raymond kicked the front door. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. Before the door hit the floor, Raymond was inside. Thompson raised finger on the trigger. Asterisk the first burst caught Red Malone mid 3 rounds center mass. The whiskey glass exploded in his hand. Red fell backward, his chair collapsing beneath him. He was dead before he hit the floor. Asterisk the remaining 11 West Side boys reacted too slow, too surprised, too unprepared. Raymond's team surged in like water through a broken dam. Overwhelming, unstoppable. The Thompsons fired in controlled bursts. 3 coordinated strike sequences. Professional, efficient, lethal, shotguns fired in alternating patterns, covering multiple angles, preventing overlap. Pistols served as backup finishing shots. Confirmation kills. The tavern interior absorbed extreme violence in a compressed window of time. 45 seconds from breach to silence. 12 West Side boys, 12 casualties. No survivors. Team 1 exited through the rear into a waiting vehicle. Gone before the first siren sounded. Asterisk Dempsey's Gym, 9th Avenue and West 44th Street. Team 2 7 men, led by Thomas Bishop, aged, former Marine, Pacific Theater veteran, Okinawa, survivor, hand-to-hand combat specialist. The gym occupied the ground floor of a 3-story building, open space, boxing ring, heavy bags, speed bags, weights, training area. 8 West Side boys inside sparring, training recruits, building muscle, building soldiers, building nothing. Asterisk after 10:45 p.m. Thomas avoided conventional entry. Too predictable. Instead, Molotov cocktails for bottles, gasoline, cloth, simple, effective, terrifying. At 10:45, 4 men threw them through the front windows. Glass exploded. Fire ignited instantly. Gasoline spread across the floor. Flames consumed equipment immediately. Panic followed. Fire triggered primal fear. The men ran for exits front back, side, pause. Team 2 had blocked them all, positioned, waiting, as the West Side boys fled the burning building. They met gunfire focused, overwhelming. 8 targets, 8 casualties. Bodies left where they fell. Team 2 withdrew immediately. Fire trucks would arrive later. They would find bodies, destruction, no shooters. Thomas and his men were already gone. Asterisk the Lucky 7 gambling den, 11th Avenue and West 52nd Street. Team 3-7, men led by James Carter, 30, no military background, street-trained, Harlem-educated, numbers enforcer for 12 years. He understood violence, understood efficiency, understood that 15 targets required different tactics than 8 or 12. Asterisk, the den was in a basement stairs down from the street, single access point, natural bottleneck, advantage for defenders, disadvantage for attackers. Pause. Unless the exit was controlled first. Asterisk. James stationed 2 men at the street entrance. Orders. Nobody leaves. 5 men descended the stairs at 10:44 and 45 seconds, 15 seconds early. Surprise outweighed precision timing. The basement was large. Poker tables, craps tables, roulette wheel, bar, approximately 15 West Side boys gambling, counting money, drinking, a standard Saturday night. Their last. Asterisk James and his men entered firing. No warning, no announcement, immediate overwhelming force. The basement became a kill zone. 15 targets trapped. 2 men blocked, the only exit. No escape, no cover. Tables concealed but did not protect. Cards and chips, scattered. Money flew. Blood covered the tables. Asterisk the shooting lasted roughly 90 seconds longer than the others. More targets, tighter space, more confirmation required. The same result, 15 casualties, 0 survivors. Team 3 exited up the stairs, into their vehicle. Vanished into the Hell's Kitchen night. Asterisk Murphy's Garage, 10th Avenue and West 41st Street. Team 4 7 men, led by William Davis, 41, former mechanic, ran a legitimate business until 1947, then partnered with Bumpy in numbers enforcement. New garages, new vehicles, new vulnerabilities. Asterisk, the garage had 3 bay doors closed. Side personnel entrance. Office storage, for West Side boys, visible through windows working on stolen cars. Swapping plates, altering vangs, erasing identities. Chop shop operation. Revenue stream. Pause. About to end. Asterisk Williams' approach was methodical. At 10:44, 2 men cut power 30 seconds early. Darkness caused confusion, disorientation. At 10:45, entry through the side door. Night vision, unnecessary streetlights provided enough light. 4 targets, visible, now working by flashlight, unaware, exposed. Asterisk, the shooting was brief, precise, professional, for casualties in roughly 20 seconds. Team 4 did not leave immediately. Secondary objective, destroy inventory. Gasoline from supplies spread throughout the building, then ignited. Fire, consumed vehicles, tools, evidence, everything. The team withdrew as flames grew. Fire crews would arrive too late. Total loss. Asterisk, O'Malley's Bar, 9th Avenue, and West 50th Street. Team 5. 7 men led by Robert Miller, 33. Former light heavyweight boxer. 15 professional fights. 12 wins. 3 losses. Retired after the third. Too much accumulated damage. Worked for Bumpy since 1949. Loyal, capable, violent when required. Tonight required it. Asterisk, O'Malley's was a typical Hell's Kitchen bar, working class Irish clientele. Neighborhood locals. The back room belonged to the West Side Boys, where lieutenants met, plans formed, orders issued. 10 men inside at 10:45 p.m., discussing Bumpy's death, Harlem expansion, future profits, discussing nothing after 10:45 and 30 seconds.